the article, No Penalty versus Torture, the editor talks about how he believes that the CIA interrogators are torturing people to death. He believes that waterboarding is bad. And he discusses how Mayor Romney agrees to the use of waterboarding and how he neglects that it even amounts to torture. I will be discussing what torture is, what the purpose of torture is, what waterboarding is, and why waterboarding really isn't all that bad. Torture. What is torture? Torture is pretty much saying that if you inflict severe pain or cause suffering to a person, whether it be physical or mentally, so that's it. Torture can amount to pretty much anything. It's subjective to each individual, weighed differently by each person. It is all depending on the person's experiences and phobias. For instance, braces. Braces are these metal instruments that are placed in your mouth. These metal instruments are glued down to your teeth, tightened, and used to swivel your teeth around within your gum. So just kind of think about this. You're having a metal instrument in your mouth, and it's moving your teeth around, and you don't have any anesthesia in your gums, so you're feeling all this movement. You're feeling the numbness, the soreness, all that pain. This is torture. When you have braces, you can't eat certain things. You can't eat hard things, or you can't even chew gum. Can you imagine how torturous that would be for a person who's sitting next to you when you just finished having lunch and your mouth stinks? Also, your teeth are very sensitive. You're constantly bleeding. You're constantly losing sleep because of the pain. And sometimes you can't even talk because your teeth hurt that bad. This is long-lasting pain. It doesn't take days or weeks. This is long. It takes months, sometimes even years. Now that is torture. So now let's look at the purpose of torture. The purpose of torture is to gain important information from a person who is suspected to be dangerous to the national security. According to the Journal of American Medical Association, torture was designed to psychologically dislocate the detainee, maximize his feelings of vulnerability and helplessness, and reduce or eliminate his will to resist. Well, when we face problems of national security, we are confronted with immediate risks of terrorism. The government can't necessarily tell us what is all really going on or the techniques that they use for interrogation, because that in itself can be an endangerment to our national security. In a national crisis, we must defer to military planners and trust that they know what they are doing. They are using these interrogation techniques not for their benefit nor for their pleasure, but because it is their duty to protect our national security. So what's waterboarding? Waterboarding is an interrogation technique that is used to gain confessions or important information. Waterboarding is an interrogation strategy in which you tie a person down on their back and cover their head and face and pour water on their face and head. So you're inducing them into the fear of drowning. Personally, I don't believe that waterboarding is all that bad. In fact, I think it's a very effective technique to gain information. Mr. Romney states that this country needs to support the use of appropriate and necessary interrogation techniques to obtain information of high-value terrorists who possess knowledge critical to our national defense. When Mayor Romney was asked about waterboarding, he replied that he would do what is essential to protect the lives of the American people. Waterboarding is a coercive interrogation technique that is extremely effective in obtaining confessions. And other reasons why this technique is not so bad is because waterboarding does not leave lasting marks. The risks of actually drowning in a stimulant drowning is minimal. There is minimal evidence of physical trauma, and you have a rapid recovery time. Waterboarding is also of low lethality. Also, waterboarding is under strict supervision. According to the Office of Medical Service, it requires physicians to perform evaluations before and during interrogation. It is required for a physician to be present at all times. If asphyxiation does occur, the Doctors stand by to advise how much more waterboarding their patients can endure. These are some of the reasons why waterboarding really isn't all that bad. In the midst of all interrogation techniques, waterboarding does not amount to all the ones that other countries have used against our American soldiers. So, in conclusion, we now know what torture is, what the purpose of torture is, what waterboarding is, and why waterboarding really isn't all that bad.